GeIL Super Luce RGB Sync DDR4 3616GB memory opinion. Today we have the new GeIL Super Luce RGB memory kit, PN, GeIL S416GB 3600Z16 UDC, something which has been a long time in the process. We were testing a batch of memory and our test motherboard decided it had enough, which admittedly it served well beyond the duty I would expect. With that being said, we rebuilt a nice modern platform and integrated a similar test bench to our existing GPU test bench for even more continuity in our testing platforms as a whole. Now, first and foremost, when talking memory, most people are familiar with the major stalwart in memory. This would be the likes of Corsair, GeIL, Kingston, HyperX, and Crucial, Micron. There are actually tons of memory companies and some much more prevalent than others. GeIL has been known to make some memory kits that range from docile to extreme, with some being super overclockable. GeIL has made some quite gorgeous modules with the GeIL Super Luce RGB modules. They perform well and can overclock either for higher speed or tighten the timings quite a bit. The RGB as you see below is well diffused, and I would say it's similar in appearance and smooth flow to the GeIL Trident Z RGB I have seen before. With the recent free fall of DRAM prices, this kit may have fallen even more by the time you read this, and let's face it, for the spec, you will be hard-pressed to find much of a better value. The only detriment I could find was the less than stellar contact with the heat spreader due to thermal tape placement. But, as I said previously, it is really not that big of a deal as thermal density on DDR4 DRAM-X is minuscule and would cool itself better without a heat spreader at all. The GeIL Super Luce RGB 3600MHz kit is the cheapest kit we could find on new, with 3600MHz spewed at CL16 with RGB. If you omit RGB, there are a few options up to $15 cheaper. With RGB, however, and the closest competitor is $15 more from GeIL, which also gives you a little better primary timings. So it does take a bit of a hit here. The performance is good and has headroom for tweaking, so it scores well here. Innovation is a tough score on some components, and GeIL simply has a B-die powered kit that looks good and does what you expect. However, they did not do anything revolutionary with a new design or function, so it scores well here but not chart-topping. The quality of this kit is top-notch if you only consider the PCB and components. But, when you have a heat spreader and its sole function for thermal transfer does not really contact the IC, even if it doesn't make a huge difference due to the thermal properties, it still has to be considered. I look at this kind of like turn signals on a BMW. Even if people don't use them, it still needs to function properly, and if it doesn't, expect some blowback. GeIL made a kit that performs well with a tick of the XMP switch. If you are willing to do a little light tuning, the GeIL Super Luce RGB modules can really turn out some awesome performance with good looks to match.